Hey everybody, John Pomeroy here. I'm here with animation legends Blaise and Andreas Deja, and we're going to talk about our careers and a bunch of other animation stuff. We've got some great clips to take a look at, so let's jump in and take a look, guys. When I was around 13, my mom had an album on Stravinsky, and on one side was The Rite of Spring, and I used to listen to that, and I was visualizing, looking at that Disney book that I showed you earlier. It's like, what would it have been like to work on that Rite of Spring, on the dinosaurs and everything. On the flip side was the Firebird Suite.
Really?
And I used to listen to that as a 13-year-old doing little doodles. What would that be like working on that? Had no idea that years forward, I would be actually doing that piece, the Firebird. But that was a real collaborative effort because it's like I had to yield to, of course, the Britzy brothers were brilliant. They were fantastic. They had a definite image and a definite vision for that sequence. You're fun to work with. And then, you know, the laborious and layering of effects like you've never seen before. But that was that sequence was my homage to Bill Tightler.
Wow.
It shows, yeah, because Devil on Bald Mountain was my mantra. It's like, if I can ever do anything like that, I would be at the mountaintop.
But your work on that is like, it's like Tightler-esque.
Yeah, man.
I mean, that is power.
The Firebird sequence is one of the most stunning pieces of animation I've ever seen, ever.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It is really, I mean, it's...
You were part of that, Eric's sequence, Rhapsody in Blue.
I'd actually complimented him on the story reel. When I saw that, I thought you took Gershwin and you made it look like it was storyboarded first and then scored. But it was, of course, the other way around. Gershwin existed before, and he just found a story that worked so well with the music. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
So I guess he remembered my compliment. He said, well, I could use some help on a section with the street organist and the little monkey mimicking. And then this rich guy and his wife come by, and there's this interplay between the monkey and this rich guy until his wife yanks him out of the scene. But I remember having the flu during that time. I was sick, and I was hoping Eric would give me just a couple of little scenes.
Yes,
little ones. And he said, "Here, I got
Take this section." How much footage was it?
It was a couple of long scenes, very long. And I thought, I don't know that I can do this, but I offered, so I have to do this. So finally I did get better and kind of pulled through. And it was a really, really beautiful style to work in.
It was.
Very simple, very Hirschfeld.
Yeah. Al Hirschfeld, yeah. It was wonderful.
It was just so much fun.
Yeah. Aaron, did you ever interface very much with Roy Disney?
A little bit. He really enjoyed Brother Bear.
Did he?
Because it was so, he did the nature documentaries and everything. And so when he would come to the Florida studio, which was fairly often, he'd make a beeline up to our story room and we'd hang out, for a couple hours at a time. And
good old Roy, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I think he was still smoking at the time. And so he'd sit in the story room and have a cigarette and we'd kick back and we'd talk about animals and we talk about nature and we just have a wonderful time. And when you go on a Disney property, you don't get treated any better than when you're with a Disney, right? Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I got to know him and I just had so much respect. I was so sad when he passed because there was still so many things he could have done. Yeah. But I was always grateful that he seemed to have been there for the purpose of furthering Walt's legacy. And I was always grateful for him giving me a part in Fantasia 2000.
Yeah. There was something, because you were talking about Roy, when Eisner came in and things were getting really crazy. And I've always heard that there was talk of shutting down animation.
Yeah. Oh, it was real.
Yeah.
100%.
And it was Roy that came in and said, no.
Oh, that is all real. That is all real. Yeah. What happened was, and I wasn't there, I didn't hear this myself, but friends of mine heard the door open and there was a meeting in this conference room and Eisner and Katzenberg came out, I think with Roy and Peter. And one of them, either Katzenberg or Eisner, said, it takes how long to make these things? And the other one said, and it costs how much? So I thought, oh, I get it. This is over.
Not a good sign.
This is over. But when they take that kind of an approach to even asking questions, so I said, this is not going to last. And then Roy talked to them more and basically talked them into it and said, we have to do this. God bless Roy. Out of the company. So without Roy, we probably wouldn't be sitting here, right?
No, exactly. I don't know how much the general public realizes the role he had in saving animation.
Yeah.
Because it's not just he saved Disney animation at that time. He did, but it blossomed into what it became, right? Yeah.
He was excited about the process and about moving forward and about a legacy
Yeah.
of the company, and not abandoning, some of the old ideals that his uncle had. And he understand the value of maintaining that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been involved with films like, finishing, El Destino.
Right.
You guys have made some great little independent films on your own too. So what was your inspiration for Mushka?
Well, after leaving Disney, I just wanted to draw still. I didn't want to give that up because, as you know, the wheels are still going, still young enough to do it, so just had to do it. So since no project was given to me or layouts handed over or whatever, you come up with your own. And I just asked myself a bunch of questions. What do you like to draw? Love drawing animals. Love going to the zoo, and a tiger would be cool. Have already studied big cats. With Lion King, I could kind of base it on that a little bit. And maybe I pair it with a girl. The contrast could be kind of cool. An innocent girl, like almost Beauty and the Beast. I mean, this not vicious, but wild animal with this innocent girl, and she would raise him. And as he gets big, there's trouble. She finds out that there's some people around him who want to kill the tiger, and she would take him to the forest where she found him, and hopefully he would become a wild tiger away from humans. So that's what I had. That's not a story. That's just an idea.
Right.
But then, you've got to think of who can help me flesh this out. It's not a story yet. I talked to a friend of mine he's a very interesting guy. He always worked for himself, and he does everything artistic. He does people's homes. He designs gardens. He writes poetry, novels, music, anything artistic. He paints a little. And so I told him about my idea. I said, can you turn this into some kind of a screenplay that I can maybe look at? And so he started out with India.
Yeah.
Because that's a country that everybody thinks about when it comes to tigers, right? And then I remember after a week he called me and said, it just sounds too familiar. There's already a Jungle Book with a boy, and he says, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. And then I said, wait a minute, where are the biggest tigers in the world? They're not in India, they're in Siberia. I said, let's go there.
Yes.
And that'll be fresh and a new environment. And so then we set the whole story there.
Oh, that's great.
And then he came up with characters like the grandmother who has raised the girl, and the father who she never knew, but she has to go to see him or be with him because grandmother is ill. He made sort of a novel out of it.
Yeah.
And I was a little skeptical at first because it seemed a little serious. And at Disney, when we had something like that, we would normally have gag meetings.
Right.
And see, okay, where are the gags? Where are the funny characters? And I said, I don't think I'm going to do that. There's a little humor here and there, but it has that melancholic tone that I'm going to keep. So,
And it's poignant. It's very sweet.
yeah, and I wanted to keep that and not go for laughs,
Yeah.
So you commit to the script, and then I storyboarded it with a friend.
Yeah.
And then it became the film.
Yeah. And likewise, Snow Bear's got such deep poignancy.
Well, there's
to it.
definitely a path.
Yeah.
You can trace a path back. So if we go back to the early 2000s when they shut the studio down in Florida and I ended up in California with my wife and my kids, it was about 6 months after we settled in California that my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And then I lost her 2 years later. And then I was devastated, and I really was having a hard time at work. And I just didn't have any heart in it. And I was struggling outside of work, doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing. And it just kind of snowballed until the film that I was working on, I was taken off of it because I just wasn't.
Which film was that?
That was King of the Elves.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I had a realization that my life was falling apart and I needed to figure out, I was so lonely and so heartbroken. We'd been married for 20 years. And so I realized in the 5 seconds after they took me off the picture that I was like, I've got to start over. I've got to find myself and I've got to heal. So I quit. And they're going, whoa, stop. No, you don't have to quit. We want to. I said, no. I said, you guys are doing exactly what you're supposed to do. I need to go do this. And so I left California, sold the house, went back to Florida, bounced around a little bit. I was working for Digital Domain, and that went under. And so then I realized, okay, I don't want to work for an executive anymore. I want to do something on my own. And that's when Nick and I had been talking and I started this online. I wanted to start teaching, and this is no lie. I was sitting out on my back porch, and I was thinking about all of you guys. I was thinking about the Andreases, the John Pomeroys, the Glenn Keens, the Mark Hens, all the people that I had been inspired by and uplifted by over the last 20 years that I had worked with, that I had gleaned so much knowledge from. And I thought, I've got 25 years of knowledge that I've gained from these guys. And now we live in a world, YouTube is just getting off the ground. And so we live in a world now where I can pass that on to another generation, but now we have the ability to do it on a huge scale. And so that was the motivation behind it. I remember thinking about all you guys. So, the whole thing is about creating courses, creating art, creating animation and painting and all that kind of stuff. But we got to the point where we wanted to do a course on how to create your own animated short. And so then we went, okay, well, we got to create an animated short. And the reason I gave you the whole path leading up to it is because when I started thinking about the story I wanted to tell, I wanted to tell the story of someone that has a character that's gone through this loneliness and loss and comes out the other side and finds somebody again. And I was kind of reflecting on myself and the journey I've been on. And I wanted one character because I always wanted to do my own film. But for whatever reason, I ended up on a bear again. A polar bear in the Arctic, because I thought the Arctic would be a nice, simple environment, and so that's where it started. So I started writing about this lonely polar bear that out of desperation creates a polar bear out of snow. And the snow represented the snow bear represented my wife, the fragility of life and the sun and all that kind of stuff. And it just became very symbolic and very therapeutic.
Where do you think you want to take animation forward from here?
Well, it's funny. We talk about this a lot. I've been in the industry now for 38 years, which is more than a lifetime for a lot of the young people that follow us. But we've really been out of the hand-drawn world, paper animation world for 20 some odd years now, 22 years, something like that. And it's interesting to me when I sit down and I do demonstrations online, when I do a live stream, I do those fairly often. And I like to sit at my animation desk, my old Disney desk. I grab some 16 field paper, throw it down and start drawing. One of the first questions, why are you flipping the paper? And when we were kids, everybody knew how animation was done when we were young. It was common knowledge. We watched it on TV. We saw how it was done. And it's interesting to me that a whole generation has come up without that knowledge. Yeah. And as a result of that, we're seeing a huge influx of interest in hand-drawn animation now. And that pendulum has swung way out. Yeah, it's taken 20 some odd years for it to swing out and start to swing back. Yeah. And I think now we have these incredible tools where we can work on paper, we can work digitally, but we can still do hand-drawn. We have these incredible tools that enable us to create the films that we always dreamed about making back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever. But we have the ability to do it now as independent small filmmakers. Yep. And so what I get excited about is there's no more gatekeeping anymore. And I get excited about the variety of hand-drawn human expression that we're going to see in animation in the coming years. And I think with all the AI slop and everything else that we're seeing, we're starting to see this pushback against AI, and they want human-made, tangible, something that has soul.
Authentic.
And that's what I get excited about. Yeah. Because when we think about my reference is the 90s. So when we think about the 90s, it was dominated by Disney, and then it was Disney and DreamWorks and then Pixar, and that was really the only game. But now Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks, they don't hold the same sway anymore because there's so much information out there and they're all vying for the same competition. And so kids will look at a small independent film on YouTube just as quickly as they'll look at a Disney blockbuster. And so the opportunity that's going to come up for artistic expression is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Just the idea that new generations, again, we're talking about the kids now, discover these films that we worked on and the classics. There's just a need for that. They really want it. Yeah. They ask, when is the next Lion King? When is the next Pocahontas coming out? And I said, well, not in the near future, but don't count it out, because things can happen. It was because it almost died in the early 80s with Iceland Cat's. It was this close. So stuff happens. We just never know. Just if that's where your heart and soul is, hand-drawn animation, just learn it, polish your craft. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. Just follow your heart.
Very important. And I feel my calling as far as wanting to give back everything that the 9 old men poured into me back to the next generation of animation artists. And, and I enjoy having them looking over my shoulder as I flip and correct their drawings. It's like, it's common knowledge. We all had to do that with our teams of animators when we were leading out with a particular character or whatever. But that's what drives me, and I think that's what drives you guys to pass that torch on to the next generation, continue to take it on forward. It's been great having you guys here. I applaud. Yay. It's fantastic to have Andreas, Aaron, Blaise.
I just got to tell you what an honor it is to be with you guys. I've always looked up to you guys, and I don't know if I've ever said it enough, but it's an absolute honor
Bless
to be
you.
with you guys.
Well, let's swear to each other's allegiance. Put your hand on top of us, and we promise to keep Animation 2D alive.